There is no job in Seattle, is there? My Ryan and someone named Jessica filled my. Ryan didn't answer. He stood in our half-empty apartment, empty because we had sold nearly everything for this supposed fresh start. His style. My name is Elena Carter, Denver as a senior Weston and company. I had spent over. I didn't hesitate to support him. That's what partners do, right? They belly. So I sold our condo, the first home I had ever owned. In Mother's antique jewelry box, Now I understood why he had pushed so hard for me to liquidate everything. How long? I asked, how long have you been planning this with her? Ryan shifted uncomfortably, his eyes darting toward his packed suitcase by the door. Elena, How long? 8 months. His voice, Jessica, and it just happened. And then the plan sort of evolved. Like it was some natural progression to systematically destroy my life? I felt sick. How methodically they must have planned this, waiting until I had sold everything, converted all our assets to cash. The money's already gone, isn't it? I asked. You'll land on your feet, Rhea. You always do. As he walked, the door clicked shut behind him. I took a deep breath, turned back to my laptop, and began to type. Ryan had no idea who he was dealing with. Ryan and I met 6 years ago at a financial technology conference in Chicago. I remember being impressed by his charm and ambition. He worked for a smaller firm but had big dreams of making it to the top. What I didn't realize then was that his ambition would eventually consume everything, including our marriage. Looking back, I see the warning signs I ignored. Like how he always seemed to take more than he gave. When we first got married, I had just received a huge promotion at Weston and Company. Instead of celebrating my success, Ryan convinced me to use my bonus to help him start his own consulting business. It's an investment in our future, he had said. I believed him. That was my first mistake, but far from my last. For years, I supported his ventures, both financially and emotionally. When his first business failed, I worked overtime to keep us afloat. When he wanted to try again, I took out a loan against my 401k to fund it. Each time, he swore things would be different. Each time, I believed him. My best friend, Naomi, tried to warn me last year. Elena, she said over coffee, don't you think it's strange that Ryan never wants you involved in his business decisions? You're literally a financial analyst. I defended him. He doesn't want to burden me, I had replied. Besides, he's my. Now I knew the truth. He never wanted me involved because I would have seen right through him. But it wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Ryan thought he could walk away with my money, my trust, and my future. He thought he had outplayed me. He was wrong. Because while he was busy scheming, I was busy rebuilding. And by the time he realized what was happening, he'd learned the hard way. You never betray someone who knows how to take everything back. And I was going to take everything. Husband. I trusted him. Trust. What a foolish word that seems now. The signs were all there. The late-night phone calls he'd take in the garage. The sudden business trips he could never quite explain. The way he started encouraging me to sell my assets months ago, claiming we needed to simplify our lives. I had nearly $400,000 in equity from the condo sale, plus another $200,000 from my retirement accounts and investments. All of it converted to cash, just like Ryan had suggested, to make the cross-country move easier. All of it now gone. Transferred to accounts I couldn't trace. The irony didn't escape me. I spent my days analyzing financial patterns for multi-million-dollar corporations, identifying inconsistencies, and preventing fraud, yet I couldn't, or wouldn't, see what was happening in my own home. But as I sat there in our empty rental house in Seattle, surrounded by nothing but packed boxes and broken dreams, something inside me hardened. I might have been blind before, but my eyes were wide open now. And what I was about to do would make Ryan wish he had never underestimated me. My hands trembled as I dug deeper into Ryan's email history. Each message revealed another layer of their scheme. Jessica wasn't just Ryan's mistress. She was a former client, a real estate investor who had helped him orchestrate everything. They had been planning their escape for months, carefully manipulating me into liquidating all our assets. The wife suspects nothing. Ryan had written to her 6 weeks ago. She's too busy planning our imaginary life in Seattle to notice anything else. Almost makes me feel bad for her. Almost. That word, almost. So casual. So indifferent. My stomach turned. I printed everything. My analyst's mind kicked into gear. Their messages painted a clear picture. While I was selling our home and dissolving my life in Denver, they were setting up a new one in Austin. They had already bought a house there. With my money, of course. The deed was in Jessica's name. Dated just 3 days ago. My phone buzzed. A text from Ryan. I'm sorry it ended this way. I've left signed divorce papers with my lawyer. It's better for both of us to make this quick and clean. Quick and clean. Like ripping off a Band-Aid. Except he had taken everything, leaving me with nothing but packed boxes and an empty rental house I couldn't afford. I stared at the screen, my pulse pounding in my ears. No, you don't get to walk away that easily, Ryan. I grabbed my phone and called Weston and Company. My boss, Linda, answered on the second ring. I need help, I said, my voice cracking. I can't come to Seattle next month for the client meeting because there is no Seattle. The whole story spilled out. There was a long pause before Linda spoke. Elena, listen carefully. What Ryan and his accomplice have done isn't just morally wrong, it's criminal. Fraud. You need to call the police. Right now. Then call your bank. I'm texting you the number of a good lawyer. Use it. And Elena, your job is secure. Take whatever time you need. I felt the first tears roll down my cheeks. Not from sadness. From relief at having at least one anchor in my life. The next few hours passed in a blur. Police. Banks. Lawyer. Each conversation hammered home the magnitude of what Ryan had done. But it was the call from my bank that finally broke me. Miss Carter, I'm afraid the majority of the transfers were authorized by you, the fraud representative said gently. Since you willingly converted and moved the assets, there's very little we can do. I hung up and looked around the empty house. Empty because I had deliberately stripped it bare for our fresh start. Except it was never ours. It was all for them. I clenched my fists, the weight of betrayal pressing down on me like a vice. Fine. Ryan thought he had won. He thought he had outmaneuvered me. But he forgot one thing. I was smarter. And I wasn't going to just let him walk away with my money. I was going to take everything back. And by the time I was finished, Ryan and Jessica would regret ever thinking they could steal from me. The fading afternoon light cast long shadows across my cousin's guest room, turning the walls into a collage of financial records, property deeds, and email transcripts. I caught my reflection in the window, dark circles under my eyes, shoulders tense with exhaustion. I barely recognized myself. But as I stared at my reflection, something shifted in my eyes. Ryan thought he had broken me. He had just made the biggest mistake of his life. I was a financial analyst, trained to track money trails across continents. I had contacts, skills, and knowledge that Ryan knew nothing about. He had spent months weaving a careful plan, but I would tear it apart thread by thread. For the next week, I barely slept. From Naomi's guest room, I built what looked like a detective's office. Printouts covered the walls, bank statements, shell companies, wire transfers, property records. Each night, I stayed up late, following the money trail Ryan had tried to bury. You need to sleep, Naomi said one morning, setting a fresh cup of coffee beside me. She studied the spreadsheets on my laptop and then the exhaustion on my face. You can't keep going like this. I can't sleep. I scrolled through another bank statement. Not while they're living it up in Austin with my money. I had already traced the largest transfer, $380,000. Ryan had moved it through 3 different banks before it landed in an account under Jessica's name. That money had bought their new house. My money. My house. They were probably decorating right now, shopping for designer furniture while I slept on an air mattress. My phone rang. My lawyer, Sarah Mitchell. The police are treating this as a civil matter, she said. Since you authorized the transfers, they don't consider it fraud. He told me those accounts were for our move, I snapped. Our supposed new life in Seattle. Sarah sighed. I understand, Elena. But proving fraud will be difficult. These cases often come down to, he said, she said. And unfortunately, the paper trail shows your consent. I hung up, my pulse pounding with frustration. That evening, I made my first mistake. I called Ryan. "You won't get away with this," I said the moment he answered. He chuckled. Actually chuckled. "Get away with what?" His voice was infuriatingly calm. "You signed everything over willingly. Check the paperwork. You're the financial expert, after all." "I'll fight this," I warned. "I'll take you to court." Ryan didn't even hesitate. "With what money?" His mocking tone made my blood boil. "Face it, Elena. It's over. Move on." Then he hung up. For the first time since this nightmare started, I broke down completely. All the stress, anger, and humiliation came pouring out. Naomi found me sitting on the floor, surrounded by financial records, my shoulders shaking. "I've lost everything," I whispered. "My home, my savings, my retirement. Everything I worked for is just gone." Naomi sat down beside me, picking up one of the bank statements. "Not everything," she said firmly. "You still have your skills, your intelligence, and you have me." She was right about one thing. I still had my skills. And as I wiped my eyes, a new idea started forming. Ryan had manipulated me personally, but professionally, I was still at the top of my game. At Weston and Company, I had access to sophisticated financial tracking tools, ones that could follow money trails far more effectively than personal bank searches. The next morning, I called Linda. "I need to take some vacation days," I said. "And I need a favor." She listened as I explained my plan. When I finished, there was a long silence. "You understand what you're asking, right?" she said finally. "Using company resources for personal matters is against policy." I swallowed hard. "I know. But I also know how many times my work has saved the company millions. I've never asked for anything in return until now." Another pause. Then, Linda exhaled. "You have 2 weeks of vacation time." My pulse quickened. "What you do with that time is your business. Just be careful, Elena. And don't do anything illegal." I hung up feeling something I hadn't felt in weeks. Energized. Focused. Determined. Ryan thought he had won. He thought he had taken everything from me. But he forgot one thing. I know how to play the game. And I play to win. For the first time in days, Ryan thought he had won. He thought he had broken me. But he was about to learn a hard lesson. Never underestimate a woman who knows how to follow the money. Using Weston and Company's financial tracking software after hours felt strange, but I pushed aside my guilt. This wasn't just about money anymore. This was about justice. The same programs I used daily to trace corporate fraud patterns started revealing something unexpected about Ryan and Jessica's scheme. They got sloppy. They thought they covered their tracks. I told Naomi over breakfast, my laptop open on the kitchen counter. But they made rookie mistakes. Naomi leaned forward. "What kind of mistakes?" "Jessica's been moving money between accounts, trying to hide the trail," I explained. "But she's using a pattern, transferring funds every 3 days, always in specific amounts." The software picked up on it immediately. But that wasn't the biggest revelation. As I dug deeper, I discovered something that made my heart race. Ryan and Jessica had been running a small-scale Ponzi scheme through his consulting business. They had defrauded at least 6 other people before targeting me. My hands shook as I scanned the evidence, names, dates, amounts. It was all there. They used charm to convince people to invest, showed fake returns for a few months, then disappeared with the money. I wasn't their first victim. I was just their biggest score yet. I grabbed my phone and called Sarah immediately. "This changes everything," she said after I explained. "We're no longer looking at a divorce dispute. This is wire fraud and investment fraud. This is federal territory now." But I wasn't ready to go to the authorities. Not yet. I needed more proof. And I had one more card to play. I reached out to Marcus, an old college friend who now worked at the bank where Jessica had opened her newest account. Over coffee, I laid out what I had found. Marcus whistled, scanning the documents. "Jesus, Elena. This is serious stuff." "I know," I said. "That's why I need your help." What happened next was like watching dominoes fall. Marcus flagged Jessica's account for suspicious activity. This triggered an automatic freeze, right when they were closing on another investment property. The timing couldn't have been better. Within hours, my phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. "What did you do?" It was Jessica. Her first sign of panic. I didn't respond. Instead, I forwarded all my evidence to the other victims I had identified. One by one, they started coming forward, each with their own story of betrayal. That evening, Linda called me. "Elena, we've been contacted by the FBI about some irregular transactions you flagged in our system." I took a deep breath. "I can explain everything." "No need," she interrupted. "I've already told them you had my authorization to use the software. They want to meet with you tomorrow." I exhaled slowly, my pulse pounding. This was it. That night, I sat in Naomi's guest room, staring at my laptop screen. I had access to one last nuclear option. An option I had been saving. Ryan had made one critical mistake. He had used the same password for everything since college, including his email. With a few keystrokes, I logged in. And there it was, every conversation with Jessica. Every plan. Every lie. I downloaded everything. My finger hovered over the forward button. With one click, I could send it all to his entire professional network. I thought about how he had laughed on the phone. How confident he had sounded. The old Elena might have hesitated. Might have shown mercy. But I wasn't the old Elena anymore. I clicked send. The response was immediate and devastating. Within hours, Ryan's professional world imploded. His clients, colleagues, and business partners saw every ugly detail of his deception. Calls started flooding in. By morning, he had lost everything. And I wasn't finished yet. Partners, investors, and clients, they all received documented proof of Ryan's fraud scheme. His phone must have been exploding with messages because, for the first time in weeks, he broke his silence. "You've ruined me. Are you happy now?" I stared at his message, feeling nothing but cold determination. "No, Ryan. I'm just getting started." The next morning, I sat in a sterile conference room across from two FBI agents, methodically walking them through everything I had uncovered. Agent Robert, a middle-aged man with sharp eyes, took notes as I explained the Ponzi scheme, the money laundering, and the fraudulent investments. They were particularly interested in the pattern of fraud against multiple victims. "Miss Carter," Agent Robert finally said, "what you've uncovered here isn't just one isolated incident. This appears to be a sophisticated criminal enterprise." I handed them my final piece of evidence, a detailed spreadsheet tracking every transaction, every victim, every dollar. They thought they could hide their trail, I explained, but money always leaves footprints if you know where to look. That's when things took an unexpected turn. Agent Robert slid a document across the table. "We've been watching Jessica Morgan for the past year." I froze. "What?" "Jessica is a professional con artist," he continued. "And it seems your husband wasn't just her accomplice, he may have been her mark too." I felt the room spin slightly. Could Ryan have been played as well? Had Jessica manipulated him the same way they manipulated me? Before I could even process the revelation, my phone buzzed with an urgent message. "Marcus. Jessica's at the bank. She's trying to empty the frozen accounts. She's making a scene." I excused myself from the meeting and called Marcus immediately. "She's threatening legal action," he said. "Says she'll sue the bank for wrongful account freezing. She's got a lawyer with her." "Don't release anything," I insisted. "The FBI is involved now." Marcus hesitated. "There's more," he added, his voice tense. "She's claiming the money was a legitimate business investment. She has documentation, with your signature on it." My blood ran cold. I remembered signing a stack of papers Ryan had given me, supposedly for our Seattle move. Those signatures had been obtained under false pretenses. "That may be true," Marcus said carefully, "but it complicates things legally." I rushed back into the conference room, heart pounding. "Jessica is at Meridian Bank right now," I blurted out. "She's trying to access the accounts." The agents exchanged glances. "Miss Carter," Agent Robert said carefully, "we need you to understand something. If you've taken any actions that could be considered illegal." "Everything I did was legal," I interrupted. "I just followed the money." That's my job. They didn't press further, but as they hurried out of the room, I felt a knot form in my stomach. Had I gone too far? Had my desire for revenge made me sloppy? I pulled out my phone and called Sarah, my lawyer. As it rang, another text from Ryan popped up. You have no idea what you've started. Jessica isn't who you think she is. We're both in danger now. For the first time since this began, I felt a flicker of fear. What had I actually stumbled into? I needed to speak with Ryan. I made the decision after a sleepless night, weighing my options. If Jessica was really who the FBI claimed she was, then I needed to understand the full scope of what we were dealing with. Naomi thought I was crazy. He'll just manipulate you again, she warned. I'm not the same woman who trusted him blindly, I replied. She didn't look convinced. But this wasn't about trusting Ryan. This was about understanding what I was truly up against. I arranged to meet Ryan at a coffee shop near Naomi's house, making sure it was public and well-lit. This time, I wouldn't be walking in as his wife. I would be walking in as his reckoning. The cafe was busy, the hum of conversation filling the air, but for me, the world narrowed to just one person. Ryan. When he walked in, I barely recognized him. Gone was his usual confident, arrogant demeanor. Instead, he looked haunted, nervous. He slid into the seat across from me, not bothering with pleasantries. Jessica's gone, he said flatly. She cleared out everything she could access before the accounts were frozen. Even the house has been sold. I let his words settle between us before leaning back in my chair. How does it feel? I asked coldly. Being the one who's left with nothing? His hands trembled as he placed a USB drive on the table. I kept records of everything, he admitted, voice hollow. Every transaction. Every conversation. Every scheme she planned. I thought I could use it as insurance. But she was always 10 steps ahead. I stared at the drive, then at the broken man in front of me. And in that moment, I made my final move. I pulled out my phone and dialed Agent Robert while Ryan watched, his face draining of color. I have everything you need, I said into the receiver. And a witness ready to testify. Ryan let out a shaky breath, his shoulders slumping in defeat. He knew it was over. Jessica might have escaped with some money, but she had lost her partner and her cover. As for Ryan, he was about to learn that betrayal comes with consequences. The aftermath unfolded faster than I expected. With Ryan's testimony and the evidence I had gathered, the FBI tracked Jessica to Miami, where she was arrested trying to board a flight to the Cayman Islands. They uncovered hidden accounts across 5 states and victims dating back 6 years. Ryan, in exchange for his cooperation, received a lighter sentence, 5 years instead of 15. I attended their sentencing hearings, sitting quietly in the back of the courtroom as I watched them both led away in handcuffs. I felt no joy, no sadness, just a profound sense of closure. Afterward, Agent Robert approached me. The funds will be recovered and distributed among the victims, he said. It'll take time, but you should get most of your money back. I nodded, but I had already moved on. Weston and Company promoted me to head of their new fraud detection unit, inspired by how I had uncovered Jessica's scheme. I bought a small house in a quiet neighborhood, nothing fancy, but it was mine. Truly mine this time. Naomi helped me move in, arranging furniture and hanging pictures on a sunny Saturday afternoon. You know what's funny? I mused, unpacking a box of books. Ryan always said I was too trusting. Too naive. Naomi smirked. Turns out you just trusted the wrong people. I smiled, thinking of my new team at work, the victims I had helped, the life I had rebuilt from scratch. And now? She asked. I paused, looking around at my new home. Now I trust myself. And that's enough. That evening, standing in my new kitchen, I raised a glass to my reflection in the window. The woman looking back at me was stronger, wiser, and finally completely free. If you've made it this far, you know my story. You've seen the betrayal, the loss, the fight for justice, and the moment I reclaimed my power. But now, I want to hear from you. What would you have done in my shoes? Would you have fought the way I did? Would you have trusted your instincts sooner? Tell me in the comments, what lessons can we take from this? Because this isn't just about me. It's about all of us. Too many people, especially women, are manipulated into giving everything for someone who doesn't deserve it. Too many of us ignore the red flags, thinking that love means trusting blindly. But trust should never come at the expense of your own security, your own future, your own power. So here's my question for you. Have you ever been blindsided by betrayal? How did you rise from it? What advice would you give to someone who's in that moment of devastation, just trying to breathe? Share it below, because someone out there needs to hear your wisdom. And if my story has taught you anything, let it be this: never give away your power. Financial independence isn't just about money, it's about control, choices, and freedom. Protect what you build. Keep your own safety net. And if someone ever asks you to sacrifice your security for their dreams, ask yourself if they'd do the same for you. Now, let's talk. Drop a comment, share your thoughts, and let's start a conversation. Together, we can learn, grow, and make sure no one else gets played the way I did.